All right, hello and welcome back to another Mr. Pisto Plays Magic the Gathering Arena Brawl Deck Tech. This time we are going one of my favorite tricolors in Magic. We are going Abzan and we are going Nethroi, Apex of Death Reanimate. He's a 5 mana 5/5 cat nightmare beast legendary creature with death touch and link link. Or you can pay 7 mana to mutate this creature onto another. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power of 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we're filling our graveyard, looking to return big creatures and little creatures, and just value out our opponent. There's some big creatures that we want to get back. We have the Thorn Mammoth. Is a 7 mana 6/6 with trample, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Thorn Mammoth fights up to one target creature you don't control. Rampaging Brontodon is a 7 mana 7/7 from the beginner set. You won't find this in anywhere but 1/1. It has trample, and whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each land you control. Realm Cloak Giant is a 7 mana 7/7 with vigilance. But we can also use its cast off of 5 or destroy all non-giant creatures. So it kind of is a flex spot where we can, it's a big thing to reanimate. There's also a sweeper. Kogla, the Titan Ape, is a 6 mana 7/6. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to one target creature you don't control. When it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls, and you can return a target human you control to its hand for a green and a colorless to give Kogla indestructible till the end of turn. There are a few humans in the deck, so we can take advantage of that. And the last big creature to reanimate is Massacre Worm. It's a 6 mana for 3 black and a 3 colorless, 6/5. When it enters the battlefield, the creatures your opponent controls get -2/2 until the end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. So those are the big fatties. Then we have ways to get these big fatties into our graveyard. You have Acolyte of Affliction, is a 4 mana 2/3, one of the humans for Kogla. And when it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards and return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So in many ways, it's 4 mana for a 2/3, draw a card, usually a land, hopefully at the beginning anyways. Rankle, Master of Pranks. We just had this guy on the channel as our commander. He's a 4 mana 3/3 Flying Haste Fairy Rogue. When it deals damage to a player, each player discards a card, each player loses a life and draws a card, each player sacrifices a creature. I get to decide which ones. If I have a big guy in my hand that I want to reanimate at some way, I can use this. Liliana, Waker of the Dead. +1, each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. So I can discard a big card that I don't want to actually cast and I want to bring back with Nethroi. The 4 mana 4 Loyalty Planeswalker has a -3, it gets -X/-X until end of turn. Rexes the number of cards in your graveyard. With all the milling, self-mill we're doing, it's good. And -7, you get an emblem with at the beginning of your combat on your turn. Target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. Never had this happen before. Maybe it will. Carrion Grub. This thing can get beefy, especially with the big creatures we have. It gets +X/+O, where X is the greatest power among creatures in your graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. So 4 mana 0/5. The Binding of the Titans. That's 2 mana Sega. Each player mills 3 cards. Exile up to 2 cards from graveyards. For each creature exiled this way, you gain 1 life. Return target creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. So you get to bring some things back, which is quite cool. Mire Triton is a good early play. So 2 mana 2/1 with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards and you gain 2 life. Then we have Corpse Churn. Mill 3 cards and you can return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So all our mill effects, other than the Triton, have a way of bringing something back with it. So it's kind of like drawing cards, but also filling your graveyard so that you can use them later. The synergies are there. We have some ways of getting cards out of graveyards. If you think there are better cards to get cards out of graveyards, throw a comment in the description. If you're liking the video, obviously hit that like button, subscribe, and notify yourself of my content. Omen of the Dead is a 1 mana flash enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. You can pay 3 mana to sacrifice Omen of the Dead to scry 2. Because we're trying to self-mill, there are often creatures that we don't want in our graveyard, and we would like to get them and cast them. This gives us that opportunity. Null Priest of Oblivion is a 2 mana 2/1 menace lifelink. If we're stuck on lands and we just need something to block, it can do that. Or we can kick it for a black and 3 colorless, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we can make a couple of our spells a little bit cheaper, but we can also add 2 power and 1 toughness to the board along with it. Valaged Recovery, similar idea to Omen of the Dead. It's a land though, and it enters play tapped if you do it. Or you can return target card from your graveyard to your hand, so you can play anything back. So if you flip over our Eerie Ultimatum, which we'll get to in a minute, or in a second, or 2, or 5, we will be able to get that back. Nissa of Shadowed Bows, the first planeswalker with landfall, 4 mana for loyalty. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a loyalty counter on Nissa of Shadowed Bows. So if you play this on turn 5, or then your land, then you can actually ultimate it the turn it comes in. If you don't want to do that, you can ramp with it. Because +1 is untap target land you control. You may have it become a 3/3 elemental creature token with haste and menace until the end of turn. Still a land. So you can use it to ramp and not put your land in danger, or you can just use it to make a 3/3 and attack for 3. Or it's -5, you can put a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard. I forget the graveyard part all the time. The 2/1/1 counters on it. Cauldron's Gift. It's another way of getting cards into your graveyard, but also returning a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. But as adamant, if at least 3 black mana was spent to cast this spell, mill 4 cards. You may choose a creature card in your graveyard. If you do, return it to the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Eerie Ultimatum, 2 white, 3 black, 2 green. Return any number of target permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Other than basic lands, every single permanent card in our deck is a different name. And the majority of our deck is permanent cards. So something like Agadeem's Awakening, you can bring it back if it's in your graveyard because it's a land too. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I could very wrong. I haven't had that opportunity. Played a few games, but I haven't had that opportunity come up. But anyways, being able to bring back a lot of things is very good. We have Agadeem's Awakening and Agadeem the Undercrypt. The black mana that you can pay 3 life to come in untapped, or you can pay black X, return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards with each have a different converted mana cost X or less. Casting this for 7 X would be amazing, so 10 in total. It's a lot of land, but it could happen. We'll see. Then we have a bunch of removal spells. Black and white are great for this. We have Bloodchief's Thirst, 1 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less. If you kick this spell for a black and 2 colorless, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Banishing Light, when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Elspeth's Nightmare, 3 mana saga. Step 1, destroy target creature and opponent controls with power 2 or less. There's the removal. Step 2, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from that player, and then they discard it. That was step 2. Step 3, exile target opponent's graveyard. Mythos of Nethroi, destroy target permanent if it's a creature, or if you play a green, a white, and a black, you can destroy target non-land permanent. Murderous Rider has Swift End, the instant of 2 black and a colorless, destroy target creature or planeswalker. You lose 2 life, and the other side of it is a 3 mana 2/3 lifelinker. And when Murderous Rider dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. We have Shatter the Sky. We don't mind if our creatures die, as long as we have something for Nethroi to mutate onto. Each player who controls a creature card with power 4 or greater draws a card and destroy all creatures. Polukranos Unchained is a 4 mana 0/0, but it enters the battlefield with 6 1/1 counters on it. And if it escapes with 12 1/1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to Polukranos while it has a 1/1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many 1/1 counters from it. It has another ability of play a black, a green, and a colorless. Polukranos fights another target creature, and this escape cost is 6 plus exiling 6 other cards from your graveyard. We have Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. It creates 2/2/2 wolves for 0. It's a 6 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. And those wolves have, whenever this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garruk you control. -3, destroy target creature and draw a card. -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +3/+3 and have trample. So if you can remove one of your wolves, then you can ultimate this, or the wolves just kind of get in the way and people don't want to attack them. Our last removal spell is Erebos' Intervention. A black and X, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. You gain X life, or you can pay exile up to twice X cards from graveyards. So it's removal, graveyard removal, it does it all. Gilded Goose, we're into some ramp. Only 1 drop accelerant in the format. When Gilded Goose enters the battlefield, create a food token. You can pay a green and a colorless to create another food token, or you can tap it, sacrifice a food token, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. We have Illusion Caryatid, is a 2 mana 1/1, add 1 mana of any color. If you control a creature with 4 or greater power, add 2 mana of any 1 color instead. We have the Skull Prophet, is a 2 mana 3/1, tap, add a black or a green, or you can tap it to mill 2 cards. You can start filling your library late game, and early game it gets you a land, or it is kind of like a land. Beanstalk Giant, I skipped over the 1 card, we'll go back to it. Has Fertile Footsteps, 1 green, 2 colorless. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It comes into play untapped. Or it's a 7 mana star, where its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Finally, we have Feyburrow Elder, is a 3 mana 0/0 with Vigilance. Feyburrow Elder gets +1/+1 for each color of mana among permanents you control. And you can tap it for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. The 0 in this card is very relevant. The 0 in, where are you? Carrion Grub is very relevant. That means if it's in your graveyard, it doesn't see the graveyard yet. And this card doesn't see the permanent colors yet. So it's a 0 power creature that you get for free. And then on to some other entertaining spells and creatures. We have Fiend Artisan. I have yet to play this in a deck. For a black or a green and a black or a green, gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. You can pay black or green and X, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Active this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. On your turn, you can trade a little creature for a bigger creature. Hopefully, we'll get to do that at one point in time. We have Plaka Predation and Plaka Caverns. The black land then just play tapped, or target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater. That player discards the card, or a black and 2 colorless. We have Thrashing Brontodon, is a 3/4 for 3 mana that you can pay 1 to sacrifice Thrashing Brontodon, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Realized while I was playing the deck and trying it out, I didn't have, other than Kogla, I didn't have any artifact or enchantment removal, and the Brontodon fit right in. Sir Conrad the Grim is a 5 mana 5/4 legendary human knight. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. And it has a black and a colorless. Each player mills a card. So we have all these ways of getting things into the graveyard. So being able to ping someone every time a creature hits the graveyard is quite nice. And it also helps us fill our graveyard as well if we need to. Amaria's Call and Amaria's Shattered Skyclave. It enters the battlefield as a white land if you pay 3 mana untapped, or you can pay 7 to create 2 or 4 White Angel Warrior creature tokens with flying. Non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until the end of turn. Very powerful if you can make it happen. Then we have Turn Timber Symbiosis and Turn Timber Serpentine Wood. It is a green mana that enters play tapped, unless you pay 3 mana. Or you can look at the top 7 cards, pay 7 mana. You may put a creature card among them onto the battlefield. If that card was converted mana cost 3 or less, it enters with 3 additional 1/1 counters on it. The rest on the bottom of your library in any order. We have a bunch of yellow lands, 2 plains, 2 swamps, 2 forests, the 2 pathways, the temples, command tower, Bonder's Enclave, so we can draw some cards, and Fabled Passage. That is Nethroi, Apex of Death Reanimator. So we are going to do a game so you can kind of see how it works, see how it plays out. And then if you want to see more of how the deck works and a little bit of what you might want to change or how you might want to change, I'll have a gameplay session and we'll have a wrap up. All right, let's get into a game. All right, we have Xchem and Kitten Bonder Prodigy, and we don't have a green mana, so we can't. No ramp, but it's better than what we had. Try me a river. Sure. Probably gonna scry me another river. Seeing blue starting is nice. That means no Gilded Goose. Hey, let's scry a 3rd river, I guess. Whatever they play, we probably... Oh, right. I got this one from an FNM. If you want to watch the FNMs, I try to make a video every once in a while. And I find the FNM format to be fun. Let's mill. Oh, 2. I got 2 good ones. 2 ramp spells. But we have. Oh, there's a ramp. This one and this one. And I have 3. This is not going to do it for me yet. We get Sir Conrad back next turn. Sir Conrad into... Can't mutate on the Sir Conrad. Can mutate onto this though. Come on, Kinnan. Xchem. Let's do this. Alright. Do I want Kinnan back or do I want land? I can always get this back later. I want to land. White, 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 green, green, black. Let's get green. Play this. Let's play this.
I'm looking for new minions.
Just try and frustrate the living daylights out of them.
Embrace you.
We're gonna be able to hard cast some of these big boys here pretty soon. Bye, Cannon. Bye, Cannon. Bye, Cannon. Oh, maybe we should have just destroyed. Oh, they could play something. No, yeah, Cannon's the right. Get that in the graveyard. I can get it back with Null Priest. Maybe they'll let me mutate on the Kogla. Then we'll have a Death Touch linking 7/7 monkey. If they end up destroying this, we get it back and. Ding. 6 manas. Hello again. 2 and a 3. Field research. Do I just null priest to get back Rampager, or do I do this? Discarding the trident. This. Is there anything better? Massacre Worm. I think we're going to. I can't adamant. Doesn't add any extra. Just gonna do. Comes a 7/7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they'll have enough to activate. Greater Gargara. 4 cards in my graveyard. That's a good one. Black. Adamant this. Counter. Fine. We'll ultimate this. Back with everything. You have to block Kogla or you die. Haha, we did it. Alright. That's what the deck wants to do. Make big things and attack with big things. Alright, thank you for watching. I'm Mr. Pisto. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.